Good evening. Welcome to our new Sunday evening Chabura lecture circuit, where we're going to be dealing with topics that come up in Chosh and Mishpat, the least dealt with part of Shulchan Aruch. And what we're going to try and do here is focus on practical areas of Chosh and Mishpat. Some of the areas are what we might call less practical for most people, unless you're dying. But we're going to try and focus on the things that are much more practical in our day-to-day life. And we're starting off with a very interesting topic, which unfortunately is a very actual topic given events around the world, be it Pittsburgh or here in Eretz Yisrael or other places as anti-Semitism rises. Europe. We're going to deal with self-defense and self-preservation, and with the focus on, as the sentence says on top, what actions are allowed or prohibited in order to protect ourselves, our families, and our possessions. So what are we dealing with here? So as we know, as many of us know, there's something called Maslow's hierarchy, which deals with the physical, the general needs of a human being, pyramid structure, and the second most important need is safety, security. We all recognize that as human beings, we don't just need our food, our drink, our air to breathe, obviously, but we need security, whether it's general safety or general external security. This topic and how this relates to halacha involves many different areas. So first of all, we all understand that if someone, chas v'shalom, if someone is coming to attack us with a knife or a gun, that's obvious, our life is in danger. We understand that there is a concept here of self-defense, of defending ourselves, and that is to save our lives.
It depends how liberal you are, but yeah, go on.
To save our lives. So that's the first topic. And that's what we're going to start off with today. But that obviously involves many other topics. So first of all, a lot of times when people are attacked, it's not Baruch Hashem. First of all, people should never be attacked. But when people are attacked, it very often is not to do with our lives. When our lives are not in danger, someone punches you, someone shoves you, someone pushes you. That is something where there is a physical altercation, but your life is not in danger. So we have to learn what does it mean to have self-defense in that sort of area. Very often, and usually, it's not even in that area. We're not dealing with physical things. Someone starts cussing you out, someone starts offending you. Are you allowed, is there an element of self-defense there? Is there something that you're allowed to do to defend yourself? What is the halachic perspective on how we're supposed to react in those situations? This obviously then sort of overflows into something which is unfortunately nowadays a very big issue. I'm sure bullying was always an issue, but especially nowadays with social media, what we call social bullying, online bullying, this is a very major issue. Just to give you a statistic, in the UK, I read a statistic that in last year, it was estimated that over 50% of all suicides of young people were as a result of bullying. So over 50%.
Online social media bullying? Or just
Lav dafka. Bullying in general. A lot of it is social media bullying nowadays, obviously, because of technology. Over 50% of suicides in young people is because of bullying. So how are we supposed to respond to that? Is there a halachic perspective in how we're supposed to respond to that? Is a person allowed to respond? What should they do in such a situation? So again, that's also an element of self-defense. How are we supposed to react to situations like that? This is going to move on to a whole different topic, which is when are we supposed to involve the authorities? Are we allowed to involve the authorities? Are we mechuyev? Are we obligated? And in what situations to approach the authorities? And in what situations shouldn't we approach the authorities if there are situations like that? So obviously that's something which is a more controversial topic, but I think that's something which is very important, which obviously this whole topic lends itself to what happens next if you can't deal with it yourself. When do you approach the topics? When you approach the authorities, or as it's known in halacha, the idea of moser. Is there an issue of moser if you are because of self-defense in these various areas, if you're approaching the authorities? There's such a concept of moser, which we'll discuss in a month or two as we get there. The next topic, which obviously flows from this, is, not for our bodies, not for our emotions. I grew up with the notion, which I think is totally incorrect, by the way, I'm sure most of you will agree, sticks and stones might break your bones, but words will never hurt you. I think that's a load of garbage. I don't know who came up with that.
It is.
Maybe if you're a macho and have no feelings, maybe that's true. But for most human beings, as the statistics which I just shared with you prove, that is absolutely not true. Besides for being Issa D'Oraisa, but we know it really does harm you, and the suicide statistics will prove that. So, so we have all of those. We're talking about our beings. But how are we supposed to defend against people who are attacking our property, people are encroaching on our property? What are we allowed to do? We're not allowed to break their bones, we're going to assume for a second. Okay? What are we allowed to do, or what we are not allowed to do to defend ourselves, defend our property, defend our residential area against people who are encroaching and doing damage? What are we allowed to do? What are we not allowed to do? Next, when are we allowed to take the law into our own hands? A very dangerous question, or a very important question to ask. Are we allowed to take the law into our own hands? And if so, when? And if so, how? This is a very important topic which we're going to get into also. This is known as Aved Inish Din al-Nafshe. Are there situations where we are allowed to literally take the din, take justice into our own hands in order to protect ourselves, to protect our property, etc., etc., etc.?
Torah advisors may be different than
well, 100%. So I'm not dealing here with the local laws in every jurisdiction, especially when we're in Israel where everyone comes from somewhere else. I'm not dealing with what it's like here in the US, in the UK, wherever else it might be. We're dealing it from a halachic perspective, purely halachic perspective. Obviously, the laws in any jurisdiction might have implications to practically what you can do, what you cannot do. Next, if you're going to save yourself, and if you're going to protect yourself, are you allowed to use someone else's property to protect yourself? Give 2 examples right here. Easy examples. Chas v'shalom, there is a terrorist attack. Okay, mass casualty event. You need bandages. You need, whatever you need in order to save the people, the wounded. Are you allowed to break into a pharmacy to grab all the, grab all the bandages and all the first aid supplies that they have? Are you allowed to do such a thing? Okay, the classic Western brawl, bar brawl. Okay, where someone would come in and someone's attacking, and they pull the chair and whack him on his head, and pelts the table, whacks him on his head in order to defend himself. Right? Is that mutter? Are you allowed to protect? I'm protecting myself with your property. Is that something which you're allowed to do? We're going to deal with that also. There's a lot to cover here, as you can tell. And finally, probably one of the most controversial topics is, when are you allowed to go to the secular authorities, what's known as the arkos? When you're allowed to, instead of going to Beis Din, are you allowed to approach and sue someone in court, in secular court, when these things happen? So there's a lot to cover here. A lot of this is Choshen Mishpat related. We're going to open up with, obviously, self-defense of the highest order, which is protecting our lives, and then we're going to slowly build the building blocks through everything else. So why is this so important? Why is this topic so important? What do you mean? I just defend myself. If you don't know the parameters of what you can and cannot do, one of 2 things usually happens. Okay? The first thing that usually happens is some people will say, I've got to defend myself, and they'll do whatever they feel like. And you get lawlessness, and you get violence on wanton violence. Unfortunately, we see that here. We see that in this country to a certain degree. There have been quite a few stories recently, and I don't know all the details, and I'm not claiming to know all the details, of youths attacking Arabs for just randomly uprooting olive trees, all sorts of things like that. Not everything, and that's putting this mildly, not everything is sanctioned al pi halacha. So if you don't know the parameters, you can easily overdo it and overstep your bounds to do things which are asur. And we have to vehemently take a stand against these things. It's not only a chilul Hashem. Okay, everything's a chilul Hashem. Fine. No, it's not only a chilul Hashem, but it's wrong. We have to take a stand. No, this is not what Torah prescribes, what Halacha prescribes to defend ourselves. We are not allowed to go that way. So there's danger on that end. The flip side of that is, when people don't know what they can do to defend themselves, sometimes they don't do things to defend themselves. And the repercussions are dire that way also. There was a story about 15 years ago. There was a policeman in Yerushalayim who was attacked by an Arab. An Arab ran at him with a knife. And he hesitated. And he said, okay, no, shoot in the air. Shoot in the air first. And then shoot. And by the time he got to actually shoot him, the Arab was at him and he killed him. He was killed by the Arab. Okay? So, if you don't know the parameters...
Laura Zaria, what about that?
No, sorry, what?
He's the soldier that's...
Right, okay. Well, that's a whole different story, perhaps in the other direction. If you don't know the parameters, one or two things happens. Either you go overboard one way or you go overboard the other way. And if you don't respond, the repercussions are dire also. Both ways are not good. Both ways are not good. So that's why it's so important to understand the parameters of all these different areas, what we are allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do. And finally, and probably most importantly, when we're dealing with defending ourselves or we're dealing with interacting with other people for our rights, we are affecting other people. Everything that we do affects somebody else. So my rights to defend myself might be negating someone else's rights, which we're going to discuss in a second. So we have to understand we're living in a society. What am I allowed to do that affects somebody else? And when am I not allowed to do it because he has rights also? A very important topic. Again, a very important topic in the Western world in general, I think, at this point. But especially when we're dealing with halacha. So moving exactly straight into this. The first topic is defending ourselves against attack, defending our lives against attack. And the most obvious question exactly on this point is, why am I allowed to defend my life? So if you look at number 1 here on your sheet, the first thing is, this is a well-known Gemara which appears throughout Shas, that we know there are 3 cardinal sins one is not allowed to one is not allowed to transgress on pain of death. What are those 3 things? Avodah Zarah, one is not allowed to worship idols, one is not allowed to commit murder, and one is not to be over on arayos. Those are the 3 things. Why is one not allowed to do this? So in terms of, we're going to deal obviously with killing somebody else. We are not allowed to kill someone. If someone points a gun to your head and says, go kill somebody else, you are not allowed to do that. Why not? So the Gemara famously says, it gives a story and the underlying piece, the famous svara, the famous logic, which is, my chazis, how do you know? Why do you think the dama didach sumak tfei, that your blood is redder, dilma dama dahu gavra sumak tfei, perhaps the other person's blood is redder. In other words, who gives you the right to decide that you can kill somebody else in order to save your life? Perhaps he is better than you. Perhaps he's better than you. How do you know that you have the right to kill him? So if that is the case, that one is not allowed to go kill somebody else to save one's own life, well, how is it then if someone comes at me with a knife that I am allowed to go kill him to save my own life? Who says that his blood is, or my blood is redder than his blood? What gives me the right to do that? Why is that any different? So the most obvious question here again, and this is something we're going to see throughout this topic, is why does my right negate his right? I have an avera of lo sirtzach. There's an avera to kill somebody else is lo sirtzach. You're not allowed to murder. We just read that Seres HaDibros. 1 second. For me to kill somebody else is lo sirtzach. We said that you're not allowed to kill somebody else to save your own life. We just said that. That's the Gemara says that. So why in this case am I allowed to kill someone else to save my own life? What gives me the right to do that? What gives me the right to do lo sirtzach in order to save my life? So that's the most obvious question which we open this topic with. And the answer is that we actually have 2 places in the Torah that discuss exactly this. So number 2, we have the case of Baba Machteres, which is actually in this week's parasha, in Parashas Mishpatim. The case of Baba Machteres is the situation where somebody breaks into your house in the middle of the night and to steal something, and the Torah says if he breaks in, you're allowed to kill him. We'll discuss this exact details of this later. You're allowed to kill him. Why are you allowed to kill him?
He was going to kill you.
Right. So the Gemara.
It's not even clear he's going to kill you.
He's prepared.
So we assume he's going to kill you. So the Gemara says, Amarava, number 2, my time of the Machteres. What is the reason that someone breaks into your house in the middle of the night that you're allowed to kill him? Chazaka. It's an assumption. Ein adam mamid atmo mamona. Someone breaks into your house, you're going to stand there and defend yourself. That's normal. V'hai meima amar, and he is saying, it's possible if I go in, he's going to come stand against me, and he's not going to let me steal his stuff. So therefore, I'm prepared to knock him out. So that's the assumption. If he's breaking in the middle of the night, he knows that someone might wake up, and he's going to want to defend himself, and therefore he's going to attack him. V'atorah amra, and this is where the famous saying comes, Im ba lahorgecha hashkem lahorgo. Okay? If someone comes right up to attack you, you should first get up and kill him. In other words,
you see the wording here. It's the hargo, not the rachzo.
L'ratzcho, right? Okay, that's Chazal versus Lashon of the Torah. Hereg, yeah, it's not that. I don't think there's any difference.
I mean, in English it works.
In English, manslaughter versus murder. That's true. It
Or
works.
killing versus murder.
True. It does work. But I think Chazal in general, the lashon is hariga. I'm not sure you can be medayik in that. The fact they didn't use the word ritzicha as opposed to hariga. But the point is, the Torah says you can kill him. In other words, the Torah says, in this case it's different. We're going to give you an exception. The exception is, in this case, you're allowed to kill him, even though usually lo sirtzach. In this case, there's no lo sirtzach. Why not? So the pasuk says, "Ein lo damin." Pasuk in Mishpatim says, "Someone who breaks into your house, ein lo damin." That means he has been mevater by willingly going into this situation where he knows he might be confronted with somebody who's going to defend himself. Ein lo damin. He has essentially relinquished his blood, his life, his value of life. So therefore, it's not ritzicha. Essentially, it's not ritzicha at that point. Basically, he doesn't have a value of life. Let's call it let's categorize it like that. Okay, let's just leave the next Gemara for a second. Okay, so that's the first case we find in the Torah, where the Torah specifically tells you that even though usually you can't kill somebody else to defend yourself, here you can. The second Gemara, we have another Gemara, the next daf in Sanhedrin, so daf Ayin Gimel, number 3 here. We have the concept of rodef, which everyone knows about. What's the concept of rodef? Someone, a pursuer. So the Mishnah tells us, there's a certain list of people that you're allowed to, and I'm going to loosely translate that as you'll see why in a second, you're allowed to save them with their lives. Who's them and there, we're going to get to in a second. You'll have to save them with their lives. Someone who chases after his friend, definitely not his friend, who chases after somebody else, lahargo, to kill him. Or he's chasing after a male or a betrothed lady to rape them. Okay, those are the people you're allowed to kill them in order to prevent the pursuit and to prevent the avera, which we'll discuss in a second. Okay, so this is the second category of people you're allowed to kill, even allowed to kill, to prevent what's about to happen. So the Gemara asks, how do we know such a thing? Bava Machteres is a pasuk. How do we know then in the case when someone is chasing someone else with a knife or trying to rape somebody, rape an erva? Okay, that's an important note. Someone who you would be chayv kares for. How do we know you're allowed to kill them? So the Gemara says, Ela nitan la'atzilo b'nafsho minalan. How do we know that you're allowed to kill them? So asif v'kal v'chomer min ha'ara hamarurasa. We learn it from a kal v'chomer, from a betrothed woman in Parshas Kiteitzei, a betrothed lady, and that's the other one of the three, the second of the three cardinal sins that you're not allowed to be over. You have to give your life for. So ma nara hamarasa shelo ba'ela lefpogma. Just like a nara marasa is coming to rape her, he's not coming to kill her, he's coming to rape her. So Amar Torah nitan lahatzila b'nafsho. The Torah says you're allowed to go out and save her from the rapist. You're allowed to even kill the rapist if necessary. So rodef chaver lahogo alachas kama v'kama. So if that's only for rape, then kol shekain, if someone is trying to kill somebody else, you're allowed to kill them if necessary to protect the person, to protect the potential victim.
A nara that's not a marasa cannot defend herself?
She can defend herself. Yes, absolutely she can defend herself. But we're talking about killing here. So different. Everyone's allowed to defend themselves. We're going to get to that. But specifically in terms of killing.
She wouldn't be allowed to kill them?
A nara she'eno marasa, a pnuya. Correct. I think that would be the truth. Yes.
The mice, I think, it'd be hard to differentiate.
Well, obviously. I don't know if the person, the rapist specifically knows.
No, it would be hard to differentiate defending versus killing, and
True also. And we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that point also. Yeah. Okay, so there's two totally different cases in the Torah. One is Baba Machteres, someone who breaks in the middle of the night. The second one is what we call Rodef, and this is the common term used for someone who's pursuing someone else to kill them, or, as we see here, to rape them. Two totally different psukim. It's interesting. Why does the Torah need to have two different categories of people you can kill? Two different places. Just lump them together. Two places in the Torah, two different Gemaras. One on Daf Ayin Beis in Sanhedrin, one on Daf Ayin Gimel in Sanhedrin. So keep that in mind for a second. There's two different parashios here, and then we're going to move on. So what are the parameters of this? Why are we killing them? Why are we allowed to kill these people? So you're obviously going to say, why are we allowed to kill them?
The Torah says so.
Well, okay. because the Torah says so. But why does the Torah say
Because
so?
we don't go kill us.
Guessing.
Right, so to defend ourselves, right?
Although in the case of Arias, it's not killing, but...
Thank you. Okay, so we're going in a good direction here. So it's clearly not the only thing in play here. So let's look at Rashi, let's look at the Mefarshim. Okay, what does the Mefarshim say? The most obvious thing that's happening here. So look at number 4, Rashi. Nitnu leharig, we're allowed to kill them. Nitnu leharig l'chol adam, anyone is allowed to come and kill them. Even a third party is allowed to come and intervene, right? Someone who has a gun and sees what's going on is allowed to intervene. Kedei lahatzilan min ha'avera, to save them from an avera. Now who are we saving then?
The betrothed woman is being saved.
So, but the true woman, she's doing, everything's against her will. She's not even doing an avera.
No, the perpetrator.
The perpetrator. According to Rashi, who are we saving here? The perpetrator. Well, that's interesting.
Why
That's not what I usually understood when I thought about Rodef. So we're trying to save the perpetrator from doing an avera. Why would we want to do that?
Call Raven.
I mean, I understand why if you want to save the victim. Got that. We all get that one.
Well, it's all happening at the same time.
Well, I understand. But is the purpose to save the victim or is the purpose to save the perpetrator?
Oh, trying to...
So we're keeping the perpetrator from Paris.
Right. So obviously these specific things, thank you, these specific things are items that are the most severe things. Killing and arayos. So we're trying to save him, assuming it's a him, it could be a her, obviously, but we're trying to save the person from breaking a cardinal sin. So how are we saving him? By killing him. Or her. Sorry, I've got to be politically correct here. So we're trying to save him by killing him. This is very interesting. What happened to the most obvious explanation, which is we're trying to save the victim? Keep that in mind for a second. Okay, so we have, Rashi seems to say we're saving the perpetrator from committing the crime. Okay, another one of the Mefarshim on Sanhedrin, the Yad Ramah, Rav Meir Levi.
Wait, one second. We're not saving the perpetrator from committing the crime.
We're not, okay?
Because if someone's coming to kill me, I'm killing him to save my life.
Okay.
Okay? I couldn't care less about what he is or isn't doing. I'm just saving my life.
Okay.
I'm saying that's why you're allowed to save your life. I mean, you should love the perpetrator so much, you're just going to do him the favor of putting him out of his misery.
I have very little...
Rashi said it
very
before
little
Clint Eastwood.
consideration for the perpetrator.
You bring up a good point. Let's continue.
Okay.
I definitely hear your point. Okay? It seems a bit bizarre, right? Okay, so the Yad Ramah, number 5, again tries to explain this second Mishnah, Rodef, the din of Rodef, and says the following. Elu shematzilosam min ha'avera b'nafshan. So he brings Rashi's shot first. We're saving them from the avera. The yesh lafarish, however, we could explain, or we should explain more accurately, I think he's saying, ve'elu shematzilon osam miyad rofehem. No, we're coming not to save the perpetrator, we're coming to save them, the victims, potential victims, from the person who's pursuing them. V'nafsham, through their lives. Koloma, v'nafsham sharofim. By killing the rofim, we are saving the victims. Okay, so we have two possible explanations of who we're saving. The most obvious one being we're saving the victims. Rashi seems to insist, we have to understand why he's insisting this, seems to insist that we're not saving the victims, we're assisting the perpetrators. Why would be the case? So, Zev, you gave a very good possible explanation. Why would that be the case that Rashi is trying to say we're not just saving the victim, we're saving the perpetrator? You brought this up a second ago, I think.
I said...
That's my memory.
I said that I'm not thinking about the perpetrator. I'm just trying to save my life.
Okay. You mentioned something before that, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, what? You can say it. I don't remember.
Okay, so there might be certain situations where the victim is not really something to be saved. So I'll give you an example. So let's say someone is chasing after a behemoth for bestiality.
Yeah.
Okay? Yochayev, Misa for that also. Okay? Who are we saving?
You don't kill someone in that situation.
Rover
You do?
Venera? Yeah.
You do?
Sure. Yes?
I agree with
yes.
that, but
So who are we going there to save Betsy the cow?
But you don't say...
No.
But
Probably not.
But that person's chayiv miso with Hasra and Bezdin.
Okay, but
You're not in the thick of it. You're not.
that would be an erva that you can kill him for also beforehand.
Yeah.
Yeah? Any erva which has karis with it.
Okay.
So clearly in that case, we are not going there, we're not killing him to save Betsy the cow. Unless you really like Betsy the cow. We are going there, and that's one of the cases you're allowed to do this. So clearly, Rashi is saying there are cases where saying we're saving the victim is not relevant. There must be some other factor here, which is also saving or preventing the person who's doing the Avera from actually committing the Avera. We're saving the perpetrator. So Rashi is purposely saying that to say that the case of the victim is not always appropriate. So we have, at this point, two possibilities of what the purpose of killing a perpetrator is. Again, saving the victim, saving the perpetrator. In many cases, both are applicable. In most cases, both are applicable.
Isn't that the foundation of all Jewish Bezdin Shemata? That the whole reason we have judicial process is so that we could punish a person and save them from God's punishment.
Exactly the point. Baba Machteres is your example. Let's start with Baba Machteres. Is there any judicial process here?
There is.
An Arab runs after you with a knife. Are we going to say, stop? Let's go call the judges?
So there's the
No, right?
I'm made judge and jury.
Exactly. That's what the Torah is telling me. I am judge and jury.
Right. So, and for the reason to save this person from.
So that's the question. What is the reason? So if the Torah tells me that I can also do that for arayos, then it's not just to save the victim's life, clearly. It's not just to save Betsy the cow's life, clearly. So that's why Rashi says there must be another reason here also. Right? The other reason is to save the perpetrator.
I think with road ape also there's such categories. If you're able to maim the person and not kill them.
We're going to get to that. Don't worry. We're going to get to all of that. 100%. Okay, so that's the second possible example, second possible reason. There's a third reason which is brought down. Why we might be killing this person. A very interesting one. The Gemara in number 6 here discusses whether you need hasra. I think you mentioned this. Do you need to warn the person? Do you need to say, by the way, you're about to kill somebody, I'm warning you, you're going to kill somebody. Do you need hasra? And we'll go into this in a second. Do you need hasra? Do you need to warn them? Well, this is very interesting. When do you usually need to, why do you need hasra generally? You need hasra to warn somebody so that they can be punished in court. That seems to imply that what we're doing is what, and this is exactly what you just said, what we're doing is essentially a
judicial process.
A judicial process, a punishment, an onesh. Now, it's a sort of a weird onesh, because he hasn't done anything yet. It's almost like a futuristic onesh. We know that you're going to kill him, and we know that you're going to end up in court and we're going to have to kill you. So let's cut out all the bureaucracy and deal with it now, basically. It's implied by the Gemara that such a concept of hasra. Usually you don't need a hasra for Beis Din.
I mean, it's not that we're cutting out the process, it's that he's not giving the...
Well, the Torah is telling us that...
He's giving up his right to the process.
So we are, as it were, the process of punishing him a priori of actually anything happening. So that's the third concept. It's so interesting because the Mishnah Melech, which I don't have here, asks the following question. Are you allowed to kill, let's say a rapist is chasing after somebody on Shabbos. I know this sounds a weird scenario, but let's just flow with it for a second. Are you allowed to kill them on Shabbos?
Is there an error?
Is an Eruv? What? I'm sorry, I lost that one. Oh, you got to get there.
Yes.
So Zev says, of course, yes. Well, it depends, says the Mishnah Melech. What is the reason you're killing somebody who's a rapist? If you're killing them because it's a punishment, Beis Din doesn't punish on Shabbos. Beis Din doesn't sit on Shabbos. There's no Beis Din. So he says, if you say that we kill them because it's almost like a judicial process, we're saying, let's just cut the bureaucracy, deal with it now. The Torah says, deal with it now. You're not allowed to do it on Shabbos, he says. If, however, you're going to say it's nothing to do with a judicial process, it is to prevent the act of happening, well, of course you can do it on Shabbos. Okay? So
why did you use the example of rape versus killing?
Because killing, I think we can all understand you are saving the victim. That for sure, you are pikuach nefesh. So, pikuach nefesh docha Shabbos. There's no question here. But in the case of rape, that's a bit of a different scenario. Whether it's raping of a man, raping a woman, it doesn't make a difference. It's a different scenario. Right? It's not pikuach nefesh.
Still a violent assault.
Absolutely. No one's condoning it. But the question is that something that you can kill him for on Shabbos?
Well, if you can kill someone for a violent, aggressive assault,
Right.
it doesn't matter whether it's Shabbos or not.
True, but the question is why? Are we taking the form? Are we taking the reins of a judicial process? If it's a judicial process, then we're not allowed to. There's no judicial process on Shabbos. We can take him to Beis Din after Shabbos, and Beis Din can deal with it then. We're not letting him off free. Okay, we're just saying we can't deal with it on Shabbos. But if it's nothing to do with the judicial process, it's to do with we are saving the victim, we are saving the perpetrator, then for sure we deal with it on Shabbos. There's nothing to do with a judicial process.
If it's as clear as whether it's a judicial process or not,
Yes.
it would have to not be a judicial process because you're going to do it to save somebody's life.
Right. So again, in the case of pikuach nefesh, there's no question.
Right.
Specifically, this case, which is not pikuach nefesh, that's what we're dealing with.
I mean, I think first.
You're saying rape is pikuach nefesh.
Yeah.
Okay, 100%. In that scenario, then you're 100% right. Yep. 100%.
I think
A hypothetical question, as I said. Yep.
right. I mean, that's what we're dealing with here.
We're trying to understand what's going on here, the nuances, and this is going to have lots of ramifications. So let's move on to number 6 here. Can a minor be a rodef? A minor, i.e. not a coal miner, a person under bar mitzvah, can they be a rodef? Now, before we go any further, before the Gemara said, we'll discuss this, and we'll go into a second. Before we go any further, based on the 3 reasons we just gave you, what do you think?
A minor wouldn't get the death penalty.
A minor would not get the death penalty. So if it's something to do with judicial process, then perhaps a minor cannot be a rodef.
Minor never gets the death penalty.
Someone who's not bar mitzvah can't be killed in Beis Din.
What's it called? Ben.
B'tzor moreh. Okay, so that's around bar mitzvah.
Did you see the Abraham in the Katan?
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're gonna. Well, I can't. Yeah. I just want to say one thing before we continue. I could spend about 2 months probably just dealing with dinner with rodef, so I'm trying to synthesize this down to something palatable. But okay, so can a minor be a rodef? So if you say it's a judicial process, a kid is not. Unfortunately, nowadays, maybe I'm wrong. Unfortunately, you have Arabs, little kids, who start stabbing people.
You do.
I came from Baltimore now. Unfortunately, there are kids with guns who are killing people. But at the same time, so they have juvenile detention. You have juvenile, prison.
A goy is a whole other story.
That might be the case. But in halacha, right, 100%. In halacha, there's no such thing as a minor, someone under bar or bas mitzvah, being killed. If you say it's a judicial process, then a minor should not be a rodef. However, if you're going to say that what? The purpose of us saving is to save the victim, who cares who he is?
And are you going to ask him for his ID card to see whether he's become bar mitzvah?
Okay, that's a question also.
Big hairs.
Maybe.
If it's to save the victim, then for sure, who cares what age he is, right? What happens if it's to save the perpetrator from doing an avera?
It's not responsible for averas.
He's not responsible for averas at this point. Chinuch. Okay, whatever, I guess it depends on the age. Right, but he's essentially not responsible, at least from a doraisa, he's not responsible. So again, perhaps a minor should not have a din of a rodef. So let's look at the Gemara. Amrav Huna, Katan ha-rodef, a Katan who is a rodef, Nitan hatil benafsho, you're allowed to kill him. Okay, Ksavar, he understood, Rav Huna understood, rodef einu tzarich hasra'a, a rodef does not need warning. In other words, it's not a judicial process. So lo shna gadol v'lo shna katan, I don't care who he is. We're trying to save the victim. So Eisvei Rav Chisda Rav Huna. Rav Chisda didn't like this. So you asked the following question. This is probably one of the most famous medical Gemaras about abortion. Okay? I'm not going to go into this. We could spend a year on this one. But we're just going to touch on it just for the purpose of our
2 years.
2 years? Okay, maybe 2 years. Yata Rosho ein nogin bo. If a fetus, its head comes out, the baby comes out, its head is out, ein nogin bo. Even if it is endangering its mother's life, ein nogin bo. You're not allowed to kill it. Lefisha ein derochin nefesh b'fnei nefesh. You can't kill one life to save another. Okay? So Asr Chista, 1 second. You just said a katan can be a rodef. Zeh katan gadol yiyeh, or maybe not in this case, depending if we kill him. Okay? So this is a katan, so why can't he be a rodef? Why should we not, if he is endangering the mother's life at childbirth, why should we not be able to kill him? V'may rodefu? So what's the answer? So says Rav Huna, Shani Hassam, that case is different. Again, I'm not going to go into all the nuances here. There's a lot to say here. The Mishmaya Karatzeli. It's not the baby's fault that he's the rodef. This is the natural process of childbirth. Mishamayim, they are causing this child to be a danger to his mother. Therefore, he is not a rodef. Very interesting line that we have to understand. What does that mean? A katan can be a rodef, but this baby cannot be a rodef. Why? Mishamaya karadfele. Mishamaya karadfele. So the Rambam, number 7, tries to define what that means, Mishamaya karadfele, and he just quotes number 7 here. He quotes this halacha, and he says he defines it slightly differently. V'zeu tivo shel olam, because this is the nature. This is the natural world. This is how nature works. Anything which is the natural flow of things, it's not the baby's fault. What do you want him to do? Okay? It's not the baby's fault. So therefore, a katan can be a rodef. It's not a judicial process. We're saving the victim. But this baby is not a rodef. So what does that mean? Zeu tivo shel olam. What does that mean? So Rav Sternbach has a very interesting shaila. Someone came up to him after the Holocaust and asked him the following question. Unfortunately, as was often the case, and there's lots of stories like this, someone had a baby, and they were hiding, and the baby started crying when the Nazi soldiers came through. And they tried to keep the baby quiet, and they weren't successful in keeping the baby quiet, and they tried to, eventually they choked the baby, and the baby died. So he came after the war, and he came to Rav Sternbach and asked him, do I have to do tshuva? Was I a Rotzech? Am I a murderer or not? So one could say, it's a baby. Hey? Mishamaya karat fele. Perhaps the baby is not considered to be a rodef. There's a lot more to be discussed in this question, obviously, but I'm just giving you what he's trying to say. Perhaps Mishamaya karat fele, it's a baby. So he says no. The natural process of childbirth, that is, as Rama says, tivo shel olam. That's the natural process of childbirth. The baby has nothing to do with this. It's mishamayim. A baby crying at a specific point, he said, and it's very interesting. We have to try and understand what this means. He says that is not the natural process of childbirth. That is a baby crying. Baby doesn't have to cry now. Some babies cry a lot. Some babies don't cry. He says you have every right to. It's a very hard question to answer clearly, and even harder to define and understand, but that you had a right to do that. That was considered a rodef. So we see from these cases another very interesting halacha. A rodef who is an onus. A rodef who is a rodef against his or her will. It's still considered to be a rodef. The Gemara did not say he's an onus. The baby's an onus. What do you want from the baby? The baby said a very specific thing. Mishamaya karadfele. Or as the Rambam defined it, zeu tivo shel olam. This is a natural process. He's not a rodef, it's a natural process. The Gemara does not mention, as the Gemara does throughout Shas, that it's an ones. So it appears from here that an ones, someone who is an ones, he's about to kill somebody, and he's an onus to kill somebody, he's still considered to be a rodef. Why would that be the case? Let's think about that for a second. Why would that be the case?
What would be an example of that?
What would be an example of that? Okay, great question. Somebody who's driving, a truck driver who's driving, and chas v'shalom, has a heart attack. And he's about to plow into a crowd. Are you allowed to kill the person, shoot him in order that he doesn't plow into the crowd?
It wouldn't matter in that case because he doesn't have control anyway. And if he had a heart attack, he's lost control.
So you're saying, from a practical scenario, you're saying it's not really...
If I have a gun and I tell you, shoot them or I shoot you.
You're not allowed.
That we've already discussed that. That's not permitted.
That's not a no-no.
Right.
Well, but can he, could that gentleman kill this gentleman? This guy's going to shoot that guy because I have a gun to his head.
Nothing personal.
Right. Yes.
Can he shoot him?
No.
He's an ones. I mean, he is a rodef ones.
If he has a gun in his hand.
My next
What?
neighbor.
Calling you names like
No, so that is not, when we're
That's not
talking,
a
that's not considered an ones.
Okay.
That's not considered an ones. Again, it's a lot more complicated, but the point is, if you have a situation where in theory, someone has no control over the fact that he's about to kill somebody else, is he considered to be a rodef? And halacha, the Rav Asher Weiss has a whole shaila on this, but in halacha we pass in yes. Why? Because what is the purpose of killing the rodef? The main purpose. Number one purpose is saving the victim. So if it's because killing the rodef is because you're trying to save the perpetrator, as we saw in Rashi, okay, the perpetrator is not doing anything wrong, he's an honest. So there's no reason to kill him at that point. If it's because of judicial process, it's an onesh, as we saw in the Mishnah Melech perhaps saying, well, there's no point killing him, he's an honest. There's no judicial process for someone who's an honest. But if the purpose and the main purpose is, and this is the underlying